Welcome to Red-tastic. Story 1. My younger sister and I are in college. We're both in our 20s. She's a senior while I'm a sophomore. The reason I'm a few grades behind her despite being older is because of unfortunate life events that put my studies on a pause. Abusive relationship, therapy, hospitalized, finances. She still lives with our parents, is still with her high school sweetheart, and already has a career lined up for her, which she starts after graduation. I've been living in my own apartment for years. After my abusive ex-boyfriend, I was in a financial crisis. This was 2 years ago when I was a college freshman. I asked my friend if he wanted to move in with me and be roommates since he was also in a financial crisis. We both agreed to share the apartment together. He moved in and occupied the room my ex-boyfriend used to live in. Over the months, both of us were still struggling financially and barely getting by, probably because of all the money, savings, our exes stole from us, including the car my ex stole from me. I asked my parents to let us move in temporarily while we both got back on our feet. Mind you, this guy friend of mine is someone my parents have known since we were very young. At first, my parents said yes to the move-on request, but then my sister talked them out of it. She said to them that she's uncomfortable having a guy she barely knows live in the same house as her. I call BS because she goes to overnight parties that have both girls and guys staying over. Also, her boyfriend occasionally stays overnight at our parents' house with her. What also pissed me off was when I was becoming overweight on a tight food budget, lots of processed foods, and she would point out that I was getting fat. She's never been overweight and has full access to our parents' fridge. Once my friend and I found out that my parents changed their minds, we were in panic. Fortunately for him, he ended up moving back with his parents and is doing better. For me, my parents still won't let me move in because my sister recently told them that she's worried I would bring some random dude over. So I've been paying for a 2-bedroom apartment and I'm financially struggling in college and life. I applied for food stamps but still struggle to get by. I've applied for scholarships, grants and loans, but I'm still waiting on the process. I'm also having trouble finding a replacement roommate. I've also had to pay for repairs to this apartment. Fast forward to today and our parents are selling their house and moving soon. My sister begged me to let her stay with me during her last year of college. I immediately said no. She got offended, told our dad, and he told me to have some compassion for my younger sibling. Now there's a rift in the family and resentment towards me. Not only from my sister but from our parents for not letting her move in with me. Another thing, I've lost the weight I gained and she went from saying I looked fat to now saying I looked too skinny. Anyways, am I the a-hole for not letting her move in? Edit. In a nutshell, I bought the car as I was going to medically be allowed to drive again by the okay of my doctor along with paperwork. That being said, there were going to be precautions first and a slow transition, which is why the title was going to be agreed to be in my ex-boyfriend's name at the time. According to the paperwork, this was only going to be temporary. Unfortunately, he abused me, hid and/or got rid of the signed paperwork shortly after, and shortly before I was going to turn it in, while he claimed the car was a gift. The lawyers couldn't get my car back. My ex is extremely manipulative, narcissistic, and sadly smart. He pulled off a few stunts to legally get away with it and make it look like it wasn't stolen. I'm struggling hard to get a roommate. At the same time, I don't want my sister around. Not the a-hole OP. Your sister did everything she could to prevent you from having a place to live when you were, or are, in your time of need. And now she's asking for the same thing she denied you. Not letting her live with you and putting her in a situation where she'll have to figure out on her own what she's doing is what she deserves. Plus, it sounds like she's been handed a lot of things in life anyways. She needs to face reality and work at something for a change. Good on you for standing up to your parents. By the way, I feel for you on the whole weight comments. Those are entirely unacceptable. It's never acceptable for people to comment on your weight. Families think they have a pass, but they don't. Now for some comments. Not the a-hole. Ask your father why he didn't have the compassion to wait another year before selling his house. While you're at it, ask where their compassion was when you were the one to ask about moving in. And she of all people said no. Karma takes no prisoners, and your family of a-holes have racked up quite the debt. Not the a-hole. It is your apartment, and your parents don't help you pay for it, nor did they help you get away from it when you struggled to afford it. They have no place forming an opinion or having input on who stays there and who doesn't. Your sister played an active role in screwing with your living situation, so it serves her right that you have a chance to do it back. I believe in the high road and being the bigger person, but not when it comes to this. Not the a-hole OP. Sorry, your sister sounds like an effing a-hole. What kind of sibling turns their parents against their sister to fit their own selfish agenda? I've been where you're at, broke and wanting to move home. It would have been lovely for that to happen, so I can only imagine your disappointment when it changed due to your sister's actions. You owe her nothing. She has some nerve kicking up a fuss when you've struggled by yourself and needed family, and all she did was hinder your progress. Your parents are also a-holes. Who doesn't help their own child? Even if they had turned you away, I'm not sure why they didn't help you in any way possible. Story 2. My daughter is 18 years old and has been living with my husband and I for the past 2 years. It's been rough for the most part, but we've been managing. The problem comes to her and her usage of marijuana. Yeah, it's legal, but my husband and I are more no to drugs. My husband a bit stronger than I am because of personal reasons. So when we found some in her bedroom a year ago, we sat her down and told her that she couldn't use it. She accepted it but continued to smoke secretly. Since we couldn't find any proof and she was blatantly denying it, there was nothing we could do about it other than keep questioning it. Well, my husband got up early one morning for a jog and saw her smoking on the roof. They got into an argument and then he came and woke me up to tell me what was going on. I tried to ask her for myself, but she escalated everything by calling him an a-hole and told us both to F off. He told her to pack up her things and that she was leaving immediately. I called her father to come pick her up, but she chose to sleep over at her friend's. Her father is now calling me an a-hole for letting him kick her out over such a small thing, but to me at least, she lied to us, disrespected our rules and cursed at us. From our side, this is certainly not permanent. It could be resolved with an apology. Anyways, am I the a-hole? Edit. I see people asking, but I'm not sure if not to comment to avoid violating the rules, so I'll just post it here. The legal age is 21. I don't know where or how she's getting now, but when we first caught her, it was from a different friend. You and your husband could have handled this better, OP. Your husband kicked your daughter out for smoking on the roof and you just went along with it. That isn't how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to reprimand her without showing her the door, even if your husband wants you to. She broke one of your rules and I understand why your husband is pissed. But kicking your child out isn't the right thing to do, even if you say it's only temporary, because I don't think she knows that. Now for some comments. I think your husband overstepped by deciding this unilaterally. I know that would have hurt me if I was the teenager in question. Getting told to pack up your things and leave immediately is pretty harsh. Getting kicked out implies permanence. Spending a day or two apart and then meeting to have a serious talk about the conditions for continuing to stay at your house was probably not a bad idea. But it sounds like none of you went about it in a good way. Everyone sucks here. Everyone sucks here. I'm also a say no to drugs kind of guy, so I generally pick in favor of anything against weed. That said, she was 18 and weed is legal in your state. As long as she's getting it legally, she is smoking away from home because it's the rules, and there is no other reason to kick her out. You're the a-hole for kicking her out. A warning at this point would have been the best option. If she continued, then you would not be the a-hole for kicking her out because she continued to violate your rules. She's obviously the a-hole for not following the rules by continuing to smoke at home. You're risking losing your relationship with your daughter if you don't learn to accept it. She more than likely already hates you for it, but still loves you because you are her mom. Kicking her out may make her think that there is no reason to continue talking to you because you showed no effort to compromise and instead went to the extreme of pretty much giving up and disregarding the real problem, which may make her give up as well. I am not here to tell you how to parent your kid, but compassion and understanding goes a very, very long way in their eyes. I doubt either of you actually have the desire to be upset with each other, and both parties need to realize and value that. Story 3. My husband James and I began dating about 10 years ago and married a few years later. We've raised our 2 girls from previous relationships in the same house for almost a decade. One rule we set in the beginning is that we're keeping finances separate. We make around the same amount of money, so it's never been an issue. It has saved us from money-related arguments, if anything. My daughter Kim and stepdaughter Lola are both graduating high school this year. For the past almost decade, we split the girls' expenses as follows. Whoever was there would pay for it on their card. Generally me, because I went shopping with them a lot more. And I would keep track of the money, and at the end of the month we would share how much we spent on the girls and then pay the other, usually him paying me. Enough to even it out. Overall, their expenses have been pretty much the same: clothes, medical, sports, etc. There would be a random time when Kim's sporting equipment would cost more than Lola's, or vice versa, but my husband and I don't haggle one another for those kinds of expenses. It basically evened out in the end. But one thing we said from the get-go is that college expenses are separate. Lola's mom was not in the picture and Kim's dad was barely in the picture. My husband and I did not expect either of them to help us out, so we individually saved for our daughters. I have roughly $25,000 saved up for Kim's college. James has about $28,000 for Lola's college. About a month ago, Kim's dad called me and told me he had enough money saved to cover some of Kim's college. I called bullshit and told him to wire me the money if it's legit. He knew that I would never steal a penny from my daughter, so he sent the money to my bank account a few days later. And it's legit. He sent enough to cover most of her college. I would only have to pitch in maybe $10,000 and get to keep the rest of the money I had initially saved up. I was over the moon with this. I told Kim and she's ecstatic too. I decided to take the leftover money, around $15,000, and stuffed half of it in my IRA and $401,000. Then decided to use the rest to take Kim on a trip to Hawaii this June. When I told my husband, he was very upset. He felt that I should take the extra money and use it either to help cover Lola's college or at least have Lola go on the trip with Kim. I told him that it's a lot of money that I worked hard to save, so I want to enjoy it. And we've always promised to keep our expenses separate. But he said that I should do what's best for Lola. Basically, she's my daughter too. But again, we always said college would be separate expenses. I just got insanely lucky that my ex gifted my daughter with this money. I feel guilty now because Lola is going to have to get a part-time job and take out student loans, whereas Kim won't. Am I the a-hole if I don't give Lola the money? Now for some comments. You're the a-hole. Requiring one daughter to work part-time and take out loans during her studies while the other doesn't have to is showing favoritism of one daughter over the other. You've been long enough in those girls' lives that you should treat them equally. You'll give one daughter a head start in life over the other. I don't see that ending well. How about they both work a part-time job and nobody takes out loans? Almost everyone has explained why you're the a-hole, but it's also incredibly foolish to blow the leftover money before the girls actually finish college. You have no idea how tuition might rise across 4 years. What additional lab or book fees might be involved with some courses or majors, or if there will be additional opportunities like unpaid summer internships or such that might pop up. Even if Kim was your only daughter, and she isn't, it's enormously useful to have some money stashed away just in case. You're the a-hole. Keeping separate finances worked well when finances were roughly equal and no child got special treatment. Then, you got a good fortune that your husband didn't get, and you used that good fortune solely to benefit you and your biological daughter, while basically telling your stepdaughter to F off. What you're doing is more than selfish. It is hurtful to your stepdaughter and divisive to your family. You are basically sending your stepdaughter a message that she is nothing more to you than your husband's daughter. Do you want your daughters to resent you and each other? If you aren't even going to make any attempt to treat your children equally, just put the entire thing into savings. And don't tell the kids about it. Jesus Christ.